I always had this tape playing in my head since I was a kid. I had a business at a young age, and I was always intrigued how some employees that I hired were amazing, especially Eastern Europeans, and some weren't, how some people were depressed and some weren't. I never found time for depression. And I was always so busy trying to make payroll, trying to get ahead, trying to eat, that I just never found myself ever down and out. I know I felt better when I exercised. So I had these life philosophies that were just brewing in my head. And the opportunity came out at one of my races. Some guy walked up to me and said, "Hey, you should write a book."
You are now listening to the podcast where authors inspire listeners to become authors, the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer, best-selling author, and book enthusiast, DomBrightmon. And you're going to be listening to a different author that will inspire you to join the business of immortality, known as authorship. Now let the fun begin. Today's review highlight is a 5-star review all the way from the Philippines, no less, or at least that's what the wonderful Apple Podcast apps is telling me where this review is from. And it's from Christian Rex, and they left a 5-star review titled Insightful Podcast. The guest shares her experiences of working with different publishers, highlighting the positive impact of her recent collaboration with Ignite Publishing, where she had more creative control and received coaching throughout the process. Emily's latest book, The Grief Happiness Handbook, explores the unexpected combination of grief and happiness, a topic that challenges conventional thinking but offers a unique perspective on healing and transformation. Her commitment to making the world a better place and her publisher's philanthropic efforts adds a beautiful dimension to her story. Overall, Emily's story is a testament to the power of resilience, creativity, and finding happiness in the face of life's challenges. Well, it sounds like somebody really enjoyed Emily Thoreau Threats episode, so we'll put that link to that episode in the show notes. So if you have a wonderful thing to say what you like about the show, or heck, even just like Christian did, if you like a particular episode, feel free to highlight that on Apple Podcasts, and we'll highlight that review in a future episode. And speaking of future episodes, let's get on with today's episode. And today on the highlight reel, builder for authors known as the Going North Podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today. It's going to be a treat that's good enough to eat 2 times over, because we got a two-time New York Times best-selling author, folks, who is a father, a husband, entrepreneur, if not serial entrepreneur, because a man's been in so many businesses and done so much business over the years, as well as the founder and CEO of Spartan Race. So let's give it up for the JD to the S, Joe to Sena. How you doing today, Joe?
How you doing? Thanks for having me. You could be a rapper,
I guess Christmas is coming up at the top of this recording. I'm definitely excited to have you here, my friend, because my goodness, it's actually interesting because I listened to your book with Dr. Laura Pence last year, The 10 Rules of Resilience for Families. I'm like, oh, this is freaking great. The next thing I know, I get a pitch out of nowhere from one of your team members pitching to be on the show. And I'm like, oh, wait, this is freaking great. I'm like, all right, I'll be honored to have you, Joe, on the show.
That's awesome. I love, my wife won't listen to me, so it's always nice when somebody will listen to me.
I love how that's your running joke when you get on shows. Like, oh man, I'm glad someone wants to talk to me, because I feel like no one wants to talk because they think I'm freaking crazy.
That's it. So how can we get your audience to be tougher?
Yes, indeed. That is actually a powerful question, because heck, it probably even through your example, because my goodness, so because where does your toughness come from? Because I know you've had a interesting background, and like a mix of, I guess, new age goodness and a rough and tough mafia family in a way mixed in together.
You nailed it. I grew up in Queens, New York, and it was organized crime capital of the world back then. And if you didn't get sucked up into the hustle, you got left behind. But that hustle not only was bad. I mean, there were folks that owned businesses, pizza places, masonry yards, restaurants, you name it. They were up early in the morning. It was a family affair. They were getting after it. Not uncommon to walk into a house where the mom was cooking some sauce for some pasta, and she's got a CB radio right there in the kitchen, and she's calling in tow trucks for her business. You know what I mean? Like, so everybody was like, sleeves were rolled up and people were getting after it. My mom took the same level of intensity towards yoga, meditation, becoming vegan. She was all in after meeting a yogi in Queens, and probably the only health food store on the East Coast at the time. And this crazy yogi created a race way back then, 40 years ago, called the Transcendence Run. And it was a 1 mile run around a 1 mile loop in Queens, 3,100 times. So you're out there for 50 or 60. It's not your typical run to the store. And you go around this thing 50, 60 days. So if you're me, if you're young Joe, and you're seeing all these business owners getting after it, and you're seeing these people go to jail to earn their stripes, and then you're seeing your mom meditate for 30 days, like, there's one common thread that I probably absorbed through osmosis, which is you just got to you got to persist. You got to get after it. You got to lean all the way in. And if you don't, you're wasting this gift we have of being alive. So that's really what Spartan is. That's who I am. And I'm scared, just like everybody else. I don't like to wake up, just like go down the list. I'm just like everybody else, but I fight those negative temptations, those urges, probably better than other people because of that background.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. And that's definitely interesting and definitely powerful too, just doing a little homework on you and just learning about that too. And the fact that the good news is you actually have done it with your kids too. If I'm not mistaken, you actually had a kung fu master come in and teach your kids as they were getting up there in age before grade school.
I was watching Kill Bill when we had our first couple of kids on our farm in Vermont, and I noticed that Uma Thurman had a kung fu master living with her, and I thought, wow, I wonder if we could get a kung fu master. So I asked my wife if she'd be up for it, and I went to China and I found a kung fu master, lo and behold, and I recruited him to move to Vermont, in the middle of nowhere. And every morning at 5:30 in the morning, he trained the kids, and every night at 5:30 before dinner, he trained the kids, and the kids became really, really good at kung fu. Only later did I find out that kung fu actually wasn't badass enough. So I found wrestling, which is a whole other story. So now they wrestle.
But that's one heck of a good combination too, because if not mistaken, the Kung Fu Master was a friend of I guess a childhood shop or something like that.
You remember? Okay, you know more information than most people. So my buddy owned a Chinese restaurant in Queens. And when my mom got into the health food kick, my dad, who was divorced from my mom, said, I got you an account over at the Chinese restaurant. The name of the Chinese restaurant was Danny's Szechuan Garden. And you can go there anytime you want, get some real food because your mother's feeding you branch sandwiches, and you could just sign the bill. So I became friendly with Danny. And when we had this idea of bringing in this Kung Fu master, I called Danny after, 20 some odd years, and I said, look, I want to, and he helped me find this Kung Fu master in China.
First time I heard branch sandwiches before. That's what I'm talking about, dude. So my goodness, so that's just about really just having those great relationships too, and then switching over to wrestling. I think. And what made you have the switch over to wrestling for the kids, since you said it wasn't tough enough for the kung fu? What was the main thing that made you make the switch?
What was the impetus? So I don't know if you know the answer and you just want to teach the audience, or if you don't, you're going to love this one. So I don't know. We're probably 3 or 4 years into this Kung Fu master living with us. And I'm in New York City with some friends from Wall Street, and I'm having dinner and I'm pounding my chest about how awesome of a dad I am because I have a Kung Fu master living at home, not understanding that there's a lot more to fatherhood than than just hiring a kung fu master. And my friends say, you're an idiot. And I said, why, why am I an idiot? And they said, well, we grew up next to a guy who was a Green Beret, and his two sons, our friends, they were asked to wrestle every night in the dark in the basement, blindfolded by their dad, the Green Beret. And this went on for 10 years, to the point where the mom was going to call social services. I mean, every night after dinner in the basement, blindfolded in the dark. If you could wrestle in the dark, you'd be better in the light. Anyway, fast forward 10 years, the kids became really good. They never became Olympians, but they were pretty damn good. One of them became the coach at Stanford University. While he was the coach at Stanford University, he introduced other wrestlers, different clubs, to come over to Stanford to mix it up with his students. One night, one of those other kids, those outside kids, asked the coach, Coach, I got nowhere to sleep tonight. I got locked out of my apartment. Can I stay on the mat in the wrestling room? He said, don't be ridiculous. Take my couch in my apartment. I'm going out with the other coaches. I'll be in, probably midnight. Just sleep on the couch. Coach came home, went into his room, went to bed. The door pried open. This neighborhood kid had a gun. Random act of violence. Was going to kill the coach. Had the coach take off his pants, leave his underwear on, throw a pillowcase over his head, duct taped it, sat him in a chair, zip tied his hands behind his back, zip tied his legs to the chair, pressed a revolver to his head. And the coach proceeded to say, would you mind shutting the lights before you pull the trigger? Coach had trained in the basement for 10 years. The coach, somehow, when this guy shuts the lights, somehow disarms him, pins the guy on the ground while tied to the chair, calls 911 from behind his back. Stanford police break the door down, find a scene that looks like it's from Pulp Fiction, and can't believe what just happened. I hear this story. I tell my wife, we have a race in Monterey this weekend. Let's go. I got to go meet this guy. So we jump on a plane. We go out to our race in Monterey. My friend Jay, who's now my friend, the guy was telling me the story, sets up the meeting. We meet each other at our race, and Jay proceeds to tell me all of that is true. That's actually what happened. And he explains wrestling to me and how hardcore it is, and how the military really would prefer wrestlers, and how the UFC loves wrestlers because they have an amazing base of fitness. And so I said to my wife, I think we got to scrap the kung fu and find an Olympic wrestler. So Jay helped me find some wrestlers. I got connected to Cornell University, Coach Cole, and before you know it, we're heavily involved in wrestling now. Here we are.
That's what I'm talking about today. Because when I heard that story on another podcast, I'm like, dude, that's freaking insane. Like, dude, that is insane. And the fact he's able to save his life like that, and just the power of preparation and just training and always staying on edge and making sure you never lose it. So my goodness. And the good news is that you haven't really lost your edge in life, because you've published 3 books and counting. So what inspired you to write, my friend?
I always had this tape playing in my head since I was a kid. I had a business at a young age, and I was always intrigued how some employees that I hired were amazing, especially Eastern Europeans, and some weren't. How some people were depressed and some weren't. I never found time for depression. And I was always so busy trying to make payroll, trying to get ahead, trying to eat, that I just never found myself ever down and out. I know I felt better when I exercised. So I had these life philosophies that were just brewing in my head. And the opportunity came out at one of my races. Some guy walked up to me and said, hey, you should write a book. You got this giant community. Do you have any thoughts on what a book would be? And I said, I've had these thoughts for 30 years. And so, I wanted to call it Spartan the fuck up, but the publisher wouldn't allow it. So we put the book together, and it was called Spartan Up, much more tame version of a title. And and I was surprised at how well it did. It resonated well with a lot of people. There's, most of us need that little kick in the butt to get going, to wake up, to push a little harder, to not take the cookie. And that the book spoke to folks. So yeah, it became a thing. I've written a couple of other books that you don't know about. And then I've just written a book with Ben Askren, the fighter wrestler. So I've got 3 books that are unpublished right now that I'm working on. So I just can't really shake the bug, I guess.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, dates. I'm talking about date. Any timetable on any other books and when they might be releasing?
I don't think we'll have another book out for at least a year. I think in the next year you'll see the next book out.
Well, all right, cool. Who knows? Maybe we'll have you back on to promote it when you decide to hit that button.
I would love it. I'd love it.
Right, indeed. That's right, indeed. And my goodness, and the beautiful thing is that you've been able to not only do it just once, but twice indeed. So, what was the process like since you had a bunch of thoughts swimming around your head for 30 years? It was probably a challenge putting it all together.
Yeah, I write books pretty unconventionally. My methodology is, I get a really sloppy set of thoughts down. I'll then ask somebody to read it and help me clean it up. After they clean it up, I'll get some more sloppy thoughts down. I'll then go to a new person, completely new, and say, hey, can you help me clean it up? I usually do that 3 times, 3 different people completely. And that gets massaged almost like wet clay and turns into a book. The funny thing is 10 Rules for Resilience, the book I published with Dr. Laura Pence, that book, in my opinion, you can't really trust publishers. The publisher fought me on that name as well. I wanted to call it, something around like, Spartan Kids or Spartan Family, or something that messaged people to help them level up their family. And I wanted it to be a bold title. And for whatever reason, they wanted 10 Rules for Resilience, which I thought was silly. But that book itself, the content's incredible. That's an incredible book. So, but you got to judge a book by its cover. you need that. Think about Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Work Week. He painstakingly figured out that this would be a title that resonated, right? Because everybody wants to work 4 hours, not 40, not 80.
Yeah, it's true. It's like you sneakily get the lazy folks to try to buy the book. Like, all right, this might be a scam. And I'm gonna do it anyway. Then it's like, oh, you go in the book. It's like, yeah, this is a process you have to work out. And once you get to that mythical, metaphorical 4 hours in your mind, it's really not 4 hours. It's still a lot of hours.
That's right.
It's just doing.
That's right.
Oh my goodness, my goodness. But hey, my goodness. So, with you being on so many interviews, is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often when you're on the guest side of the game?
Yeah, I guess the number one question I always think we all need answered is, how do I do it? How do I get up and do it and live the life I can live? And, there's a lot of methodology that I've learned along the way. I learned them from, psychiatrists, from neuroscientists, from Olympians, business people, doctors. And I'd like to impart some of that wisdom, maybe it'll help folks get up. And one of the greatest tricks is to lie to yourself. If you have every intention, let's say, of doing a 5-mile run in the morning, you can lie to yourself and you can say, listen, we're just going to do a 1-mile walk. We're not going to do the 5-mile run. Because the goal really is to just get your sneakers on and get out the door. And if you can get that mile walk in, most likely 90% of the time, studies show you're going to do the 5 miles. You're going to get it done. But we got to get you out the door, right? And then the beautiful thing that happens is the more you do that, the more you show up, the more likely it becomes a habit and it becomes you. And your neighbors see you out in the morning and they wave to you. And then you're telling your wife and you're telling people that this is what you do. And you do 5 miles every day or whatever your thing is. And so it just becomes the thing. It becomes your thing. It gains momentum. So the message to everybody out there is lie to yourself if you have to. Get your sneakers on. And when you're doing it and you want to quit, just remember you're a lot more fortunate than everybody in the cemetery.
Wow. Now that's a jewel right there. You're a lot more fortunate than the ones in the cemetery. Because it's true. It's good to be on this side of the grass instead of the other one.
That's right.
Oh man, funny enough, that actually reminds me of one of our past episodes. I can't believe one of our past guests, like David Hollingsworth. I think it was like 2 years ago. That was the title of his first book. Like I think it was Get Out the Door, Get Out the House, if I'm not mistaken, because he had to find the motivation to get back into being fit after being in a motorcycle accident, and it was not expected either. Then again, what accident is expected?
That's right. That's right.
Oh my goodness. Well, since you're a podcast host as well, my goodness, I always like to ask fellow hosts their top 3 lessons learned from starting and running their wonderful podcasts. And my man has got a whole, I guess, I don't know, a whole country of content in a way.
I do. I've got 700, I think, interviews I've done. And I can't even tell you how many times I've been interviewed. So, 3 big things. I would say one, I learned from a mob boss, not from somebody I had on the podcast. He sat me down in my preteens when I was starting my business. I was cleaning his swimming pool. And he said, number one, on time is late. You're going to show up at 8 o'clock. You better get here at 7:45 a.m. Number two, go above and beyond. If I'm paying you to clean the pool, I want you to straighten up the shed, clean the windows, do things you're not getting paid for, make yourself invaluable. And number three, never ask for money. You'll get paid if you do a good job. And those three things stayed with me. 2 other amazing bits of knowledge I did not know. Number one, I didn't know that the human brain, the number one motivator for it is the avoidance of discomfort. More than sex, drugs, and rock and roll, we want to avoid discomfort at all costs because it presents a danger. And it really presented a danger back in the 1500s. Today, less so. We've got Uber Eats, we've got Uber, we've got elevators instead of stairs. There's not a lot of things coming at us on a daily basis that are going to kill us and threaten us. So we got to know that our brain is trying to shut down all these wonderful things we should be doing to improve our life because they're hard. Waking up early is hard. Put your sneakers on to go do that mile is hard. Taking a cold shower is hard. Eating a salad is hard. Anytime you try to do those good for you things, your brain is saying, oh, don't do that. That's too dangerous. We need more calories. What if we run out of food? Don't eat the salad, eat the chocolate cake. Your brain is telling you that. So you got to fight your own internal dialogue. And then number 3, I didn't know this. I'm sure you don't know this. The brain, when you take on hard things and you complete them, the brain leaves a track that the neuroscientists, the neurosurgeons can see. The more hard things you do, the more tracks you lay on the brain. The more tracks you have, the more likely you are to do other hard things. You have tracks laid to get those things done. I didn't know that. If you're young and you're doing hard things, it's more easily adaptable to brain. It creates tracks even more. If you don't finish the hard thing you take on, it leaves a gap. The neurosurgeons see gaps in the brain. Gaps make it more likely you don't finish hard things. So when you're halfway through and you want to quit, just know that you are either positively or negatively affecting your actual brain.
Yep, now that was a new one for me too. Definitely new for me right there, because it's like wow, especially for those who pride themselves on being completers. It's like, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure you pride yourself on being a completer. Like my goodness, there's been a time in your life where you were on the track to doing something hard, and then you kind of regret not finishing, or has it been like in reverse where it's like, oh, I should probably do more hard things than ever? When some folks will be like, dude, you're like the most toughest dude on earth, probably with all the races you've completed and done and created.
I've quit I've quit things before, and it's been a question I've asked myself for decades. Like, when is it okay to quit? And I've come to the conclusion that it's okay to quit or pivot if where you are does not align with your higher purpose. So an example would be you and I were climbing Mount Everest. We're 100 feet from the top. We're in the danger zone. Bad weather rolled in. We're past the time that we should be on the mountain. We should be turning around based on all our pre-assessment checks, based on everything we know, all the planning we've done. We should be turning around. I have a purpose and a goal of being the greatest family man ever. That's my goal. I got a new wife. I've got some new children, and that's all I want to do. That's my why in life. You, on the other hand, my climbing partner, you are about to set the world record. You're single. This is your higher purpose. You are going to be the greatest mountain climber that ever lived. We're 100 feet from the top. The bad weather has rolled in. We should turn around. You probably go for it. I probably pivot because I'm not looking to be the greatest mountain climber there ever was. So it's very important that when we take on these journeys, these tough challenges, we understand our why and we etch them in stone, because our brains, remember what I said before, our brains will trick us. Our brains are begging to turn around when we're 100 feet from the summit. It's hard. We're out of oxygen. It's cold. It'd be so much easier just to turn around. We have to remember, you said you wanted to be the greatest mountain climber ever. This is your window. This is your chance. Yes, it's dangerous, but this is what you said. You said you were going to go for it. So that's my 2 cents on quitting and pivoting.
Or like one of those $50 pieces. That's right, indeed. And a great example right there, because it's so true. Like, really, your why is really your direction point. It's like
That's right.
that's so true. That was a great compare and contrast there, because it's like, yeah, it's like, hey, if you want to be the best family man, it's like I got to make it back alive for my kids here, because the climb down can be worse than the climb up.
That's right. Getting down is mandatory. Getting up is optional.
Oh my goodness, that is so true indeed. So, my goodness, a fun question for you. Your fabulous book with Dr. Laura, The 10 Rules for Resilience, Mental Toughness for Families. If that book were a food, what would it be and why?
That would be a porcupine. You'd a roasted porcupine. It'd be crunchy. It would hurt, but once you got it down, you'd be full and tougher. Yeah, it'd be a roasted pork, maybe a barbecued porcupine.
Wow. Okay. That was an answer I was not expecting. So, you. So, how many times have you had porcupine?
Yeah, just a couple. Only when I've been really, really hungry on the mountain in Vermont. Not too tasty.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like, sure, cleaning cleaning crocus fish with all the bones is one thing. It's like, oh, porcupines with all those needles. Okay. That's a first.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, when you hug a porcupine, nah, you ever tried eating one? It's like, hey, wait a second. Did not see that one coming. Oh man. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. Actually, better yet, before that one, I probably should ask you this, but so I got since you've been doing so many things in entrepreneur space, there's probably been some times where you've had some setbacks. So has there been a major setback that actually became a major setup for success for you?
Well, I mean, the major setback that I've been dealing with for the last 3 years is just recovering as a company from COVID. The COVID debacle crushed us. We were basically out of business 20 times. Somehow we survived. Somehow we dug in. Somehow we inspired our team. Somehow we inspired our customers. And I feel like I've been through an 1,100-foot tunnel of shit, and I got 11 feet to go. 11 feet to go. I just got to get through this tunnel. So that's where I am.
Uh, hey, but hey, you're still in there. You're still kicking it. Starting day, kicking the laws of Caster. Starting day, because hey, Things are back to where, well, they're back.
Almost back. Well, this weekend at Fenway, for example, we'll have 12,500 people there. By the way, your people that listen, I want them to do one of my races, one of our races, Tough Mudder, Spartan, Trail, whatever it is, no charge on us. So they should email you. We should say between now and let's say December 1st. Now and December 1st, they got to email you, say they want in, they want to do something hard. They're willing to not eat the cookie, right? They're willing to go to bed early. How do we get them? How do we get them out there? So they gotta raise their hand, and I'll give them a free entry for them and their friends.
Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it. Before December 1st.
Before December, they got to commit before December 1st.
That's right, D. Gotta commit, indeed. Definitely gotta commit, indeed. And hey, sure, I might even be motivation to avoid some of the holiday feasting.
There you go. There you go. I'll even get you a turkey. You can carry a frozen turkey while you're doing the race.
Did that actually happen? What's up?
That did.
Oh God. Trying to do 3,000 burpees over time with a turkey in your hand. Okay. Oh man. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
I would say let's get to work. 25, we got a lot more time on the clock and we got stuff to do. Let's go. I mean, I'm a doer. I love changing lives. And if you gave me, 30 years back and I woke up today, I got 30 years back, I'd say we're not changing 100 million lives. We're now changing 500 million lives. We got time.
There you go. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. And that would make the current wife a cougar in the process, too.
There you go. There you go.
That's what I'm talking about, Dave. Well, there you go. You gotta love having doers on the show, y'all. That's right, indeed. So for those who've enjoyed the conversation and want to check out some of your wonderful work and cop some copies of your magical books, what's the best way for folks to do so, Joe?
Just email me, joe@spartan.com. I mean, you find me anywhere, but just email me, joe@spartan.com. Say, Joe, you inspired me. I want to do something hard. What can I do? Help me out, whatever. My whole purpose in life, my job is just to help folks. So send me an email, make it short. I do not want to read a 14-page email, 3 lines. That's it. Tell me what you need, how I could help. We'll make it happen.
Wait. You're dead right, folks. We don't need the novel. Folks, they got time for novels in this case. Right, and you're going to put a link to all of his wonderful things in the show notes, too, so you can do just that. Reach out to him via email, and heck, even check out his podcast, too. So that way you, too, can find out the hard way how to be harder than maybe 5 boulders, maybe 20.
There we go.
So any parting words before we close up shop?
Do something hard today. You'll be happier. I promise. And disconnect the hot water heater in your house.
If you're hearing this part of the episode, that means you're one cool individual. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, and if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to share it with at least one other person in your network. Bonus points for 3. And be sure to check out the backlog too while you're at it, because there are hundreds of wonderful episodes to choose from as well.